Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers match reaction. Rangers are through to guarantee Europa or European group football. Phew, that's all I'm going to say. It was a 90 minutes where we held on by the skin of our teeth at times. It was difficult to watch. We're going to try and analyse it as best we can. The most important thing is a brilliant result for the team overall performance. We're going to dissect. I think everybody will have their own opinion on it, that's for sure. Andy, good evening, mate. Pleased to be through.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was at times a tough watch. Times, it was they were asking, are the Rangers fans sitting comfortable at home? I was going, I wouldn't say I'm comfortable, but I'm not behind the couch. So there was a kind of fine lines between on the couch and behind it. But yeah, they'll see the educational side of tonight and they'll move on, then take these learnings into league action and then obviously the next round, which is crucial.
Kenny, did you enjoy that?
Not 1 second of it, mate. No. I was behind the sofa watching it through the cracks of my fingers and not enjoying a single second of it, mate. But delighted to be through, and we'll go on to discuss it. But actually, quite enjoyed the last half hour, put it that way. Didn't enjoy the hour before that.
I think the game was done as soon as Kasama equalised. We will talk about that. But what can I say? We always knew that this was going to be clunky. We knew that it was going to be difficult. We've listened to fans of Southampton, MK Dons, previous clubs, Russell Martin, and they said right at the very start, it will make you want to pull your eyes out because of the things that they do. All I can say is that on the ball, I thought defensively we were so ropey. We spoke about it last week. We were the same. Every chance they got was more or less created by ourselves. It's that ball, we move it about the back four, and then any time we try and play it forward, Panathinaikos were on to us straight away. And because we were back to turn, they were winning the ball off us so many times. That's a big problem that we need to fix, and quickly. Defensively, we actually defended really well. We made one mistake and they scored from it. But actually on the ball, defensively, we were not good at all, Andy, and it's that slackness on the ball. And that's what I'm trying to explain. On the ball, not good, but the actual defending, we did 10 corners tonight. We never gave up any opportunities. We defended all of them really well. We defended open play stuff really well, but actually on the ball, we gifted opportunities away, and that needs to be fixed immediately.
Yeah, I mean, we said after the first leg of the tie is that I couldn't tell you what Panathinaikos' game plan was or their style of play, because everything that they were doing good was coming from us, giving them the ball in those kind of areas where they could break and just those kind of not earned attacks. And that carried over into tonight. I mean, we're giving the ball away well too easily. Ones where we're getting picked off, we're playing it out for throw-ins for them. But I was saying before we went live, it felt like, especially from John Suter, the old habits were still there of my first instinct is put it long. Where if you take a second and just have that bit of patience and look up, Rothwell's in a half space where you can just drop it to him, because that's where he wants to be. He wants the ball in those avenues to control it and move it on. And we've seen it in the kind of the brighter stages last week, that in those areas he picks up the ball and we're comfortable. He oozes confidence, Rothwell. But instinct was never. We kind of under pressure kind of forgot the game plan and forgot what the kind of pathways out from the back are, because there is definitely more than just hoof it. And I'm sure that the coaching staff has been trying to drill that in, that you can get from back to front. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and they just almost kind of fell back into those old habits, which again, early stages when we've kicked it long 4 or 5 times, and you said about corners, you do think this could be a long night, which it certainly did feel like overall. But yeah, educational again, because this will be something I'm sure when they look at the video they'll go, you can do this, you could do that, you could do that, but under that pressure they just seem to forget it.
Kenny, what did you make of that? The biggest issue for me, just to kind of repeat the question that I put to Andy, is that on the ball, particularly at the back and trying to play out, is it a midfield issue? I'm not sure. Are they shown for it enough? I'm not sure again, but we are too slack on the ball and giving up too many chances, which is really problematic.
No, I thought defensively, or the defence and the midfield were both really poor first half. I thought we were really struggling to get out at all. And, you know, we were talking about it before we come on, but the amount of times that we had the ball and then the camera would pan away and then they would have a throw in, or, you know, they were in possession was nuts. And that's a concern because, you know, Andrew's kind of said that there as well, but we seem to be the masters of our own downfall at times when it comes to causing our own problems. And, you know, it is early days for Russell Martin, so we're not going to sit there and get too hyped up or, you know, vent at some anger about it. We're through and we're delighted to be through. But at the same time, I didn't think that. I know you said you thought Tav was okay. I didn't think either fullback played particularly well, particularly that first half. I didn't think we managed to pass the ball out at all. And I thought that Diamandi and Raskin in particular in midfield were really poor first half in terms of keeping possession. I just didn't think we could do it at all. And as I say, I'm a bit like Andrew in that sense, where it's difficult to kind of figure out exactly what Panathinaikos were trying to do, because we were just gifting them opportunity after opportunity. But thankfully, we've got a keeper that plays very well again. And at the end of the day, it's difficult to say how good Panathinaikos are, because, you know, when that draw was made, we all knew they're a decent side with a decent reputation. However, I think if they didn't about them up front at all, they would have caused us a lot more bother. So plenty of room for improvement in terms of passing the ball out for the back, mate. I wasn't enamoured with a lot of what I seen that first half. You can see the first hour in terms of trying to play out and play this possession football that Russell Martin wants to, you know, get instilled into them. Not plenty of work to do, put it that way.
Oh, there's loads of work to do. Look, the real positive of tonight is the overall result in the tie, but I'm not sitting blindly saying that everything's wonderful. We were at times awful. We got away with it, especially the one Giga again caught with the ball. Him and Suter at times on the ball are really risky, which is overly risky, and they're loose in their passing, which causes us problems. Better teams would have beaten us over two legs on both nights. I'm not naive enough to think that, but I'm also trying to be aware of where we are, which is a complete rebuild from a squad that was miles away, from a team that played where the front three tonight was a young boy, a third choice striker, and a boy that was out on loan last season. That's not how we're going to play in the future, and it's not how we're going to look. So to get through this tie with everything, and bear in mind that Russell Martin's been here 5 or 6 weeks, I'm taking the positives out of it, which is the fact that we had to win this tie no matter what. And Panathinaikos stood in the way of that. And yeah, you can sit and say we argue over performance-wise, or not argue, I think we all agree performance-wise, but Rangers have done what's required, Andy, and getting through, avoiding Shakhtar and avoiding Besiktas potentially in that Europa League was a nightmare scenario. So for me, I don't really mind how we've done it, especially this early in Russell Martin's tenure. Getting through is job one. Then we can all sit here and say, by the way, passing looks really bad. We give up too many opportunities. Things have to be tightened around what we are doing. We need to be better in the final third. All of these things are absolutely true and applicable. But the overriding facts for me is we got the job done, which we needed to do this early on Russell Martin's tenure. And that's a big plus for me.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, say you don't go through this tie and you do face a tough Europa League qualifying tie. Tonight's reaction, you know, not only from the fans but for the players themselves heading into the league opener, that it's a completely different landscape. You know, in this team, which, and again, I don't want to say this, but there's been mentality questioned of your Butlins, your Tavs, some of the returning players, the mentality to dig in when it gets tough. I question how we would feel going into the league opener at the weekend. But I think we'll take confidence in the fact that it wasn't a complete performance. And the manager will tell you that. I think Martin would be lying to himself if he said that was exactly how they drew it up. I think the players will tell you that it was different and they didn't exactly perform to the best of their abilities. They'll be honesty about tonight's performance. We get through. That was the game plan. We learn from it because, again, as you said, it's still very, very early doors. We needed this result and we got it. So that's a positive for me. Everything else is learning points. And I have faith in Russell and his team because they are that honest that they will go ahead and they'll look at it and they will dissect it because we've got an honest manager. Last year there would have been excuses for why a performance didn't go the way it should have gone in a perfect dreamland. A perfect story, as his story, as the previous manager said. But Martin will tell you this is the early days. There'll be bumps in the road, and we certainly seen them tonight. But he's not going to tie it up in a bow and say perfect performance because he's real. He's a realistic manager.
Yeah, there's plenty of points to improve on tonight, Kenny. Positives: Jack Butland had another fantastic night. He was caught a wee bit. Actually, it was ironic that so many clear opportunities they had. The one chance they get, the boy kind of mishits it, and it kind of goes in, and it completely wrong foots Jack, and goes right in the corner. It couldn't have been more accurate from such a kind of doff mishit kind of effort. And I suppose it was always going to take something like that. And at that point, about 2 minutes later, they whipped the ball across the face of goal, which the boy was quite close to, and you thought, right, we're in for it. And then Rangers go up the other side and get that vital goal. And it was an outstanding finish by Gassama when he came on. He basically, more or less, first couple of touches, he's put one in the back of the net. It came at an awkward height. It's really, really an excellent finish and exactly what we needed at that point. Because it killed the tie dead. We wouldn't have appreciated it at the time, but the only other thing they really had was Tete's ball that went across the face of goal that just went wide. And apart from that, Rangers were fairly comfortable because it just killed them stone dead.
It did that, actually. Their goal actually reminded me in a similar way to Ali McCoy's against Dynamo Kiev, if you've ever seen it, way back in '87, I think it was, where he's just completely misheaded it, and it's on the way in the corner and keeper's got not unearthly. But funny enough, I kind of, when they scored, it was a wee bit unexpected for me. I didn't see it coming. And then when it did go in and, it was ruled offside, and we were on the group chat and we all kind of went, that's onside. But the Gassama, listen, that boy Gassama's going to do for me. He comes on and instantly just looks an absolute danger, an absolute threat. And you're right, it's a fine finish to get over the top of the ball and keep that straight from where he is at that, with the way he's got to kind of arc his body and twist his body and keep that on target. What a finish that is. And as you said, it kind of destroyed their belief, didn't it? They just kind of, that was them finished. And their crowd, I noticed their crowd started getting right on top of them a little bit. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things that I look at, Stevie, and I'm looking at what the two of you guys have said, and I totally agree that we are a work in progress. And yeah, a better side might have put us to the sword tonight or whatever. They're not a bad side. They're a decent enough side. You've got to go to a hostile environment. You've got to go and get a result. This will do wonders for that team to be able to come on that, go on that flight tonight back home as a team and turn and say, do you know what? We've just went and played in front of 40-odd thousand in 36-degree heat and humidity that, if you've ever been in Athens, is just bonkers. And they've come back with a result that it will do wonders for them. So that's all I can really say about it. That when it comes to kind of killing a tie, it's not often you'll see that, but it is one of those things that you look at in terms of that one strike and it's done. And we're half an hour to go. I couldn't have been more delighted. I was bouncing about this living room, actually, which at my age is quite a dangerous thing to do. So, aye, delighted. And hello, Andrew.
What are you doing? Good evening,
I
Andrew.
I didn't put myself into the recording here. I just, want to jump into the studio and see how the live stream was going. But, it's nice to be here.
Thoughts on this evening, Andrew, since you've joined us?
I had a lovely evening. I want to shout out Ross. There we go. I want to shout out Ross, who was very complimentary towards the podcast when he saw me in the pod. I thought we were terrible. We played appallingly. But we got the result. 1-1. The gas man delivereth once again. So I'm happy.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andrew. Andrew's clearly been at the pub, so we will speak to him at a later
How
time.
dare you?
Oh my goodness. On that note, Kenny, Rangers are through, which we're looking like we're going to play. Pilsen have scored with just a couple of minutes left. They lead 3-1 on the night, 3-2 on aggregate. 3-2 on aggregate, yeah. I'm just watching it come through now. That's going to be a tough tie, but it's more, in my opinion, going to play Shakhtar Donetsk would have been an absolute nightmare draw to try and get into Europa League. This isn't an easy tie by any means, but you've got to imagine that Rangers at a point would be in a better position. Gassama may be ready to start. Would Telo Asgard be back? These guys are going to make big differences to our 11, I would imagine. And that, hopefully, will do us a lot better.
Yeah, listen, whether it's Shakhtar or Besiktas, I don't know the score in that at this moment in time. You would have to say if we end up in the Europa League, trust me, there'll be about 15, 20 sides, not as good as either of those in that league stage. So, best avoided that kind of tie. And as for Victoria Pilsen, I thought they'd probably sneak through this tie. I was really surprised they get beat at home. That sets us up well because if they're beatable at home with Ibrox, with our home crowd, I would expect us to do quite well against them. And again, you look at Sparta Prague, you look at Slavia Prague, you look at Victoria Pilsen, they seem to be splitting their league, year on year. The three of them kind of share it. So they're all of a much of a muchness, and we've played Slavia and Sparta recently over the years. We know how tough it's going to be. They're good sides. They're very technical, typically Eastern European sides, and it'll be a tough test and it'll be a tight tie. But are they any tougher than Panathinaikos? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I think Panathinaikos are one of those sides that are best avoided at any point because they are a good side and it's an intimidating place to go and a tough environment to play in. Whereas I think the Victoria Pilsen's ground is much, much smaller and should be not quite as intimidating. That's without being disrespectful about them. Am I confident? Yeah, I would be quite confident getting through that tie without being complacent about it. And if we play like we did in the first half tonight or the first half last week, then we've got plenty of work to do because, if they've got decent strikers about them, we might find ourselves in bother, Stevie. But all to play for and a real opportunity to hit the playoffs and get that extra money for reaching the playoff. And if we were to get the playoff, it's a 50-50 tie again. It's like 2 cup finals and with a genuine pot of gold at the end of it. So I'm beginning to dream a little bit. But on tonight's performance, mate, we have plenty to do.
Yeah, we will be beaten if Survey or Victoria can finish because we should have been beaten over these 2 legs with the chances Panathinaikos had, Andrew. So let's talk a wee bit about how we look tonight. Either fullback, you've got issues there. Aaron's Aarons is not comfortable on the left. I think that's quite clear. Vastly more comfortable on the right, on the short kind of cameo we had there. I thought Jeffy did well, probably because they were tiring as well. He got forward a few times, put in some decent balls, but and got down there to cause a kind of overlap issue with Gassama. It is obviously a work in progress, but there is a uncomfortableness with how the fullbacks look. I think that's fair to say. We need somebody on the left. That's true. There's also an imbalance in the middle, I think, where we're not slightly comfortable. I think Asgard would make a massive difference. When you look at how Raskin's getting forward as well, Asgard would be a more threat in front of goal and things like that, I think. And obviously, again, I'll say it, that the front three that started tonight was a young kid, a third choice striker from last season, and a boy out on loan. That situation is going to change also. So this is very much a work in progress for Rangers. That team that started, Russell Martin told us, will look really different towards the end of the window. And with all that said, there's obvious work to be done. I don't think Danilo did a lot tonight. He worked really hard, but he wasn't in the game. A couple of snapshots that ultimately led to the goal. But there's a lot to improve on, is my point. I think even though you can be happy at what we've done in terms of getting through and guaranteeing group football, but there's a lot more to be done individually and collectively.
Yeah, again, it's about patience, and I know that word is, you shake your head at it as a Rangers fan because we have those high standards, and if you start getting rid of those standards, you're changing what it is to play for this club and support this club. This is the prerequisite of it. Being a Rangers player and a Rangers fan is you have high standards. The issue with that is, we won a game, but it didn't look brilliant. So it's about, finding the middle ground between, we want to be this team that is a juggernaut, runs through teams, regardless of who we're playing and what competition. But it's a new management team, very new system, and obviously with the risk reward side of the system, you're going to see those shaky moments. I mean, my mother was terrified on the couch next to me. She hasn't watched a lot of us so far in this pre-season, so seeing it properly tonight and seeing some of those back passes, side passes, ones where we're getting caught out with communicational issues, we're going to need to get used to it, and it's going to look sloppy at the moment because this is just how it is. We're still very, very early into this rendition of our side and the system that Russell Martin wants to play. Communication was the main one. I said it about 6 or 7 times in the first half. They just need to talk to each other, and they need to have faith in their teammates being where they're supposed to be. Those ones, you've seen it countless times across both flanks with Aarons and Tav and the home leg. That pass from the centre half, and they just get caught. There's just, all that needs is a man on. All that needs is a man on. And if it's not on for a flick round the corner, you play it straight back to the person who's giving you the ball. It requires the centre half to be switched on still after playing his pass, that's not too much to ask for any professional footballer. If you pass the ball to a person in front of you, you don't just start counting how many blades of grass is on your shoe or how many supporters can you see over your shoulder. If you can't do that, then you've got a problem. All it needs is a man on and expect the ball back, or you play it sooner and crisper and they don't have the problem. These are the things that they'll iron out. And as someone who's not played a single minute of organised football, I don't think that's too much to ask.
Huge thank you to Bluebells, who's gifted 10 poor lads of the Dream Rangers podcast memberships. We really appreciate it. I'm slightly laughing because Andrew, you said off air, how many times did we get the ball at a goal kick, and then by the time it replayed from BBC, Panathinaikos had the ball in their possession or they had a throw at the side. And I joked as well about, first time I looked at the clock and I thought there was 20 minutes gone because they had about 8 corners and there was 6 minutes gone. So it really was a long night. But Kenny, sum that up for us best you can. Tonight's overall performance, result, what it means for us.
Personal take, I'm absolutely delighted to get through. I thought it was a really tough time when we get drawn against them, particularly with a new manager, with what is going to be a brand new squad. A lot of new players in the team over the last 2 games there. I think we have to remember, we have to understand, we have to be realistic. We say this is the first 2 games that Russell Martin's actually played, competitive games. That are we the finished article? Nowhere near it. Are we just beating a team that on any given day, on any given year over the last 20, 30 years, would we have known that Panathinaikos is going to be a really tough tie to get through? Absolutely. So we have to be realistic and say our season hasn't even started yet, and we're through. And we're guaranteed that whatever it is, X amount of millions in the Europa League, guaranteed minimum. And we've now got a kind of free hit at trying to see how far we can go in this competition. Delighted for Russell Martin. Delighted for the new players. Delighted for the players in general. But I've just come out from behind my couch 2 minutes before I logged in here, mate, because I didn't enjoy that at all. I've got to be honest. I found it a wee bit too harem-scarum for me. I found the trying to play out from the back just a wee bit too predictable. We have to be quicker. We have to be slicker. And as Andrew has said there, you have to trust your teammate a little bit more. There has to be more of an understanding between them all as well, of exactly where they're going to be, and trust the system that Russell Martin's trying to play and implement, because at times, there's too often in the last two games here, Stevie, that you can look at whether it's been a James Tavernier or a Nico Raskin or a Mo Diamandi or any of them, and they're all pointing at each other, trying to get themselves into a shape that they know where they're supposed to be. So they're beginning to understand it, but by no means the finished article. That's what I would say. But absolutely buzzing to get through, Stevie, because I'll be 100% honest. I kind of, when the goal was given for them eventually, when it was ruled onside, I kind of feared the worst. I thought if we lose another one in the next 5-10 minutes, we are going to struggle. So fair play to the young man Gassama. As I say, he's a proper shining light there tonight, because what a finish that is.
Andy, sum us up your feelings on tonight and where we are, etc.
Proud of the team. Tough environment, heat wise, environment wise, how early it is into the campaign. They set up with the task of getting through, and they did it. You know, learnings to be taken, and the honesty factors back. The team, you know, they'll go away and work on it. Gassama, I feel like I'm going to need to be sending cards to my mate Wardy, who's a big Sheffield Wednesday fan for down south, because he did seem genuinely heartbroken when he signed for Rangers. Not in a bad way, just because he knew what we were getting and what he was missing at his team, who are unfortunately going through a bit of a tough time. But it's a thank you letter to him tonight for another stunner from the gas man. But 2 shots and 2 goals or something like that for Rangers so far. So yeah, if we can keep that up for the whole season, it'd be much appreciated.
Yeah, it certainly would. My thoughts on tonight was quite simple. We need to be a lot better. I don't think anyone would tell me otherwise. On the ball, definitely need to be a lot better. Defensively, at times on the ball, we were awful, but actual overall defending, we defended 10 corners really well, didn't give up many chances from them. The chances we gave away are all coming from things that we're doing ourselves. Well, we need to fix that and fix it quickly, because if you make those mistakes, eventually or very quickly, it's going to cost us. We need to be better. The team looks slightly unbalanced when you look at the left side being Aaron's, Suter, Raskin playing all on those sides. I don't think it looks entirely comfortable. These are things that we need to fix. The front three, young Finlay Curtis, no criticism. Danilo worked hard but offered very little. I don't think he had much to kind of get. Right hand side, Kieran Dowell worked hard but isn't good enough in this setup to be effectual. These are all things that we need to fix, and we will fix in time. It's not going to look like that. It's a work in progress. To get through this tie as early as this is all that really mattered. To win overall, win and draw tonight, I'm absolutely delighted with, because we certainly rode our luck. We certainly have to get better individually, things need to swap about. Collectively, we need to get a lot better on the ball. None of that is lost on any of us. So there's a lot to do. Certainly a lot to do, but tonight we can enjoy the fact that we are through. European group football is confirmed. Whether or not it's Europa or Champions League. Champions League seems like a tall order, but it's a shootout now with Victoria Pilsen in the next round. If we get through that, you get the £5 million parachute, which comes as your kind of Champions League payoff, and then it'll be club, I think it's Bruges and Benfica waiting, which would certainly be a tall order to get past any of them. We've seen Bruges up close and we know how good they are. 2-0 up at half time with their first team. They certainly took the foot off the gas. So there's a lot of work to be done for Rangers, but this was never going to be easy. Everything about Russell Martin was that at the start it's going to be very difficult to watch. And, you know, until that clicks, it's going to be a work in progress. We've just got to hope that every game we play takes us a bit closer to where we want to be. And that's ultimately what I want to see. Getting through this tie, guaranteeing European group football should allow Rangers to go and spend a wee bit more as well. So let's hope that they move fairly quickly on various targets. Left back, left centre back, right winger, striker. These are all things that I think every one of us would say that is needed. So let's see what happens. Well done to the team tonight. Well done to Russell Martin. By hook or crook, we got there. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't great. I don't think anyone's trying to pull the wool over your eyes, that's for sure. But Rangers are through, and we look forward to that. Hopefully, you'll see a lot of you at the live show on Friday night in Walters Bar in Rutherglen. We're looking forward to that. Huge thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyde Rejoinery, Athlone Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, with our partners Black Rooster and Art of Gold. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us. It is free and really, really helps us. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night and a couple of days at work, etc. And we'll speak to you all again soon. Take care.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athlone Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.